Hey everyone, welcome to another video. I am really happy that you're joining me. Today we're going to be painting more heads for the 100 Heads Challenge in gouache, but this time I wanted to time myself for each portrait because I want to get a better idea of how long these heads actually take me, and I also want to figure out if there is a way I can speed up the process. You know, still get the results that I'm happy with, but find a way to get from A to B in a more straightforward, maybe predictable way. I thought this would be an interesting challenge. A challenge within a challenge, if you will. The results were pretty interesting. I definitely put myself in a different painting headspace than what I'm usually in, so we'll be talking more about that later. So let's get into it. This first head really surprised me. I was a teeny bit overconfident and I thought that I'd be able to complete it in 25 minutes. Maybe I was a little delusional, I don't know. So I set an alarm for 25 minutes, but as you'll see, it doesn't quite play out as I expected. I love this reference. It's a bit of a challenging one, but I could tell right away it would be a really fun one to paint. I immediately knew that I had to treat this portrait in a very sculptural way. I sort of thought about it as if I was sculpting a bust statue of some sort. I tried to lay in the large shapes of color fairly quickly, but it did take me a while to get these color mixes correct and to get my values correct. And because I was in this headspace of trying to complete the portrait in a timely manner, I was really trying not to worry about the ugly stage. Instead, I was thinking about how I can use these blocks of color and value to indicate plane shifts. And I was thinking about where my color mixes need to be lighter or darker, and sort of treating the whole thing like a puzzle. Okay, you'll see as the 25-minute timer runs out, the portrait isn't finished. It's starting to come together, but the right side of her face, or our left side, is readable, but the right side, not so much. It's feeling quite disconnected. So I switched from a timer to a stopwatch to see how many additional minutes it would take me to bring this portrait to a conclusion. I say to a conclusion because I'm not really looking to fully render these portraits. Instead, my focus is on creating a visually interesting painted portrait. As you'll see, this first portrait ends up taking me an additional 35 minutes, which with the initial 25 minutes is a full hour. I was definitely hoping to be quicker than that. That being said, I really loved how this one came out. It's one of my favorite portraits of the challenge so far. I believe it's head number 75, so we are 3/4 of the way through this challenge, just a little bit more to go. I feel like this portrait unlocked a few things for me, namely using bigger, looser brushstrokes and rendering less. I know that if I wasn't timing myself, I wouldn't have stopped where I stopped. I definitely would have kept rendering. I think when you're first starting out in art, it is easy to think that more rendering equals better results, or that the more a piece of art is rendered, the better it is. And as you go further in art, you realize that this isn't necessarily the case. I've known for a long time that the kind of paintings I prefer are looser and less rendered, but I still sometimes fall in the trap of overworking and over-rendering. So this painting really demonstrated to me that idea of less is more in painting, and that is something I'd like to take with me into my oil paintings as well. Before we go any further, I would like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. I'm in the process of getting my online shop ready for a relaunch. It's been closed for quite a while and I am finally ready to get it up and running again with originals, prints, and stickers for sale. I found the class Digitize Your Art to Sell Online, Prep Your Paintings for Print on Demand by Kat Coquillette on Skillshare. It has been an extremely useful resource for me when it comes to learning how to scan and edit my artwork for the best print results. If you don't already know, Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes ranging from beginner to advanced, led by industry experts across fine art, illustration, design, freelance, and more. I love Skillshare. I genuinely use it all the time for classes on fine art, but also for some of my hobbies like sewing and clothing design. I really can't recommend them enough. So this summer, Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. I'm happy to share that the first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Now let's get back into painting. So with 2 more paintings to go on this spread, I wanted to see if I could speed things up a little bit more. They are smaller, so theoretically, they should take less time, right? That's what I hoped, but of course that's not how it went. The second painting actually took me more time than the first at 1 hour and 5 minutes. For some reason I needed those 5 minutes, I guess, but I was able to speed up a little bit on the last painting with a total time of 52 minutes. Really not that much faster. I would love to keep trying to challenge myself in this way, and ideally I'd like to get down to 25 to 30 minutes. I don't want to talk during the whole painting process, but I do want to talk a bit about a few things I've learned from timing my painting process and what I think you guys can take from it as well. Do I think we should always be painting in this way, trying to complete a painting in as little time as possible? No, of course not. But I do think you can learn a lot from a challenge like this that you can take with you into your more relaxed painting sessions. By timing your painting process, you can learn more about yourself as a painter. How much does your painting progress in 5 minutes or 20 or an hour? It can be really interesting to take note of these things. A challenge like this also teaches you to be more methodical with your brushstrokes. You really want the majority of the brushstrokes you're putting down to be the right ones so that you don't have to go in and fix them later. This can help train you to not make those lazy brushstroke decisions that I'm sure we are all guilty of now and then. You know, putting down a stroke fully knowing that it isn't the right color or value, but we think maybe it's good enough, maybe we can get away with it. But then ultimately we have to come back in and fix it later. I think a challenge like this can really help us with that. Another challenge that can help you make better brushstroke choices is one where you limit the amount of brushstrokes you use in a painting to, say, 100. When you do that, you really have to be considerate of each and every stroke. I would argue that that is an even harder challenge than the one I'm doing today, and one I'd definitely like to try. But one thing that the timed challenge is good for, that the limited brushstroke challenge isn't really as good at, is helping you to loosen up. I found myself being a lot more confident in my brushstrokes because I didn't have enough time to not be. So I was placing them quicker and looser than I normally would, which I think creates a much more exciting portrait, in my opinion. Okay, so did I fail this challenge? Maybe. I did spend much longer on each one than I would have liked. That is true, but I still think I really benefited from trying and from just being aware of how much time these portraits take. I'm still gonna try and push myself further and maybe do a portrait in 25 minutes. I think with a simple monochromatic portrait, that would be doable. The 100 Heads Challenge overall has been such a great place for me to practice and try new things with very little fear of failing. So it's a great place to do these little mini challenges within the challenge. Challengeception, we'll call it. If I haven't babbled too much, I will leave you to watch the rest of the portrait painting process in peace, and I will pop back in at the end.
Okay, so I think that is it for this video. Feel free to like and comment if you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. There are tons of other art videos on this channel to keep you company. Thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and thank you to my wonderful channel members and patrons over on Patreon. I share high-res scans of my sketchbook pages over there every month. And with that, I will see you all very, very soon with another video. Bye-bye.